Welcome to Buddha Sangha. Today we will do a very long sutta and the most interesting sutta. The sutta about Buddha's enlightenment. How did Buddha get enlightened? So it is Majjhima Nikaya Sutta number 26. Ariyapariyesana Sutta, the noble search. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. Then, when it was morning, the Blessed One dressed and taking his bowl and outer robe, went into Savatthi for alms. Then a number of bhikkhus went to the Venerable Ananda and said to him, "Friend Ananda, it is long since we heard a talk on the Dhamma from the Blessed One's own lips. It would be good if we could get to hear such a talk, friend Ananda. Then let the Venerable Ones go to the Brahmin Ramaka's hermitage. Perhaps you will get to hear a talk on the Dhamma from the Blessed One's own lips." "Yes, friend," they replied. Then, when the Blessed One had wandered for alms in Savatthi and had returned from his alms round, after his meal, he addressed the Venerable Ananda. "Ananda, let us go to the eastern park, to the palace of Migara's mother, for the day's abiding." "Yes, Venerable Sir," the Venerable Ananda replied. Then the Blessed One went with the Venerable Ananda to the eastern park, the palace of Migara's mother, for the day's abiding. Then, when it was evening, the Blessed One rose from meditation and addressed the Venerable Ananda. "Ananda, let us go to the eastern bathing place to bathe." "Yes, Venerable Sir," the Venerable Ananda replied. Then the Blessed One went with the Venerable Ananda to the eastern bathing place to bathe. When he was finished, he came up out of the water and stood in one robe, drying his limbs. Then the Venerable Ananda said to the Blessed One, "Venerable Sir, the Brahmin Ramaka's hermitage is nearby. That hermitage is agreeable and delightful. Venerable Sir, it would be good if the Blessed One went there out of compassion." The Blessed One consented in silence. Then the Blessed One went to the Brahmin Ramaka's hermitage. Now, on that occasion, a number of bhikkhus were sitting together in the hermitage discussing the Dhamma. The Blessed One stood outside the door waiting for their discussion to end. When he knew that it was over, he coughed and knocked, and the bhikkhus opened the door for him. The Blessed One entered, sat down on a seat made ready, and addressed the bhikkhus thus: "Bhikkhus, for what discussion are you sitting together here now, And what was your discussion that was interrupted? Venerable Sir, our discussion on the Dhamma that was interrupted was about the Blessed One himself. Then the Blessed One arrived. Good bhikkhus, it is fitting for you clansmen who have gone forth out of faith from the home life into homelessness to sit together to discuss the Dhamma. When you gather together, bhikkhus, you should do either of two things. One is hold discussion on the Dhamma, or two, maintain noble silence. Do you do that? When you speak, speak only something that is beneficial for the other. Speak of the law of the universe. Dhamma means the wheel that keeps moving. What wheel keeps moving? This entire world, the samsara, is constantly changing, is constantly in motion. That is why the law that keeps everything changing is called Dhamma. Here, Buddha is saying either you should speak about Dhamma or you should be in noble silence. Two kinds of search. Bhikkhus, there are these two kinds of search, the noble search and the ignoble search. And what is the ignoble search? Here, someone, being himself subject to birth, seeks what is also subject to birth. Being himself subject to aging, he seeks what is also subject to aging. Being himself subject to sickness, he seeks what is also subject to sickness. Being himself subject to death, he seeks what is also subject to death. Being himself subject to sorrow, he seeks what is also subject to sorrow. Being himself subject to defilement, he seeks what is also subject to defilement. This was the definition for ignoble search. Ignoble means that which is not noble. Yeah, that search that the wise one will not undertake. It is not wise. Search means what? Simply that which you want. Look at yourself carefully. What is it that you are seeking for right now in your life? What you are seeking for, is that subject to birth, aging, sickness, death, sorrow, and defilement? If it is subject to that, then it is an ignoble search. For example, you yourself are subject to birth, old age, sickness, death, defilement. Correct? And if you are seeking money, remember, money comes, money goes. It is also temporary. So it is also subject to death. Nothing is permanent. Not your house, not your car, not your spouse, not your children, not your parents, not your name, not your fame. Nothing in this world is permanent. The thirst for permanency itself is what is called seeking. And if you are really seeking for these things that are subject to death, then it is an ignoble search. Homework number one: is your search ignoble? Check. And what may be said to be subject to birth? Wife and children are subject to birth. Men and women, slaves, goats and sheep, fowl and pigs, elephants, cattle, horses and mares, gold and silver are subject to birth. You can put all your possessions in this: your $1 million house, your $100,000 car, your expensive branded clothes, your shoes, your makeup, your books, your watches, etc., 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 your job, all are subject to birth. These acquisitions are subject to birth, and one who is tied to these things, infatuated with them, and utterly committed to them, being himself subject to birth, seeks what is also subject to birth. Are you seeking that which is subject to birth? Being yourself subject to birth? Then it is what kind of search? Ignoble. And what may be said to be subject to aging? Wife and children are subject to aging. Men and women, slaves, goats and sheep, fowl and pigs, elephants, cattle, horses and mares, gold and silver are subject to aging. These acquisitions are subject to aging, and one who is tied to these acquisitions, infatuated with them, and utterly committed to them, being himself subject to aging, seeks what is also subject to aging. And what may be said to be subject to sickness? Wife and children are subject to sickness. Men and women, slaves, goats and sheep, fowl and pigs, elephants, cattle, horses and mares are subject to sickness. These acquisitions are subject to sickness, and one who is tied to these things, infatuated with them, and utterly committed to them, being himself subject to sickness, seeks what is also subject to sickness. And what may be said to be subject to death? Wife and children are subject to death. Men and women, slaves, goats and sheep, fowl and pigs, elephants, cattle, horses and mares are subject to death. These acquisitions are subject to death, and one who is tied to these things, infatuated with them, and utterly committed to them, being himself subject to death, seeks what is also subject to death. And what may be said to be subject to sorrow? Wife and children are subject to sorrow. Men and women, slaves, goats and sheep, fowl and pigs, elephants, cattle, horses, and mares are subject to sorrow. These acquisitions are subject to sorrow, and one who is tied to these things, infatuated with them, and utterly committed to them, being himself subject to sorrow, seeks what is also subject to sorrow. And what may be said to be subject to defilement? Wife and children are subject to defilement. Men and women slaves, goats and sheep, fowl and pigs, elephants, cattle, horses and mares, gold and silver are subject to defilements. These acquisitions are subject to defilement, and one who is tied to these things, infatuated with them, and utterly committed to them, being himself subject to defilement, seeks what is also subject to defilement. This is the ignoble search. Take a moment again and see what are you seeking, what are you craving for, what are you running after. Aren't you subject to birth, to aging, to sickness, to death, to defilement, and to sorrow? And that which you are searching for, that is also subject to all of this. It is also going to die. You are really seeking for temporary, yourself being temporary. It is an ignoble search. And what is the noble search? Here, someone being himself subject to birth, having understood the danger in what is subject to birth, seeks the unborn supreme security from bondage, nibbana. Being himself subject to aging, having understood the danger in what is subject to aging, he seeks the unaging supreme security from bondage, nibbana. Being himself subject to sickness, having understood the danger in what is subject to sickness, he seeks the unailing supreme security from bondage, nibbana. Being himself subject to death, having understood the danger in what is subject to death, he seeks the deathless supreme security from bondage, nibbana. Being himself subject to sorrow, having understood the danger in what is subject to sorrow, he seeks the sorrowless supreme security from bondage, nibbana. Being himself subject to defilement, having understood the danger in what is subject to defilement, he seeks the undefiled supreme security from bondage, nibbana. This is the noble search. What is the point of searching that which is just like you? That which is born, that which will become old, that will become sick, that which will die, that which has lots of defilements. Lots of faults, lots of cravings, aversions are all defilements. What's the point of searching for that which will only increase your sorrow? Look for that. If you have to search, search for that which will take you beyond all this sorrow, that which is beyond birth, beyond aging, beyond sickness, beyond death, beyond defilements. Therefore, it is beyond sorrow. Seek that state of being withdrawn from all this samsara, this temporary samsara, that state of peace itself is called Nibbana. You really cannot crave for Nibbana because craving itself is sorrow. Craving itself is a defilement. Then you are still stuck in this world, in this samsara. It is still an ignoble search. When you withdraw from craving itself, it doesn't matter what the object of your craving is, whether it is a person, a situation, a thing, or Nibbana. It is all the same category. When you just withdraw from craving itself, that state of relaxation, that itself is Nibbana. That is a noble search. Now look within and see, have you started on this path of noble search yet? So why is Buddha talking about the noble search and ignoble search? He's telling you his own story. When he was a baby, it was predicted that he would probably be a saint. But his father wanted him to be an emperor. So he protected him completely and prevented old age, sickness, sorrow, all those things that were known in those days to cause dispassion within one person. He removed all those factors from the inner kingdom. There was an outer city where all the people who were old and sick were sent. He only saw the inner city, and the inner city had all the young, beautiful, happy people. No sickness, no sorrow, no death. Buddha grew up in prosperity. Buddha grew up in this fake environment of happiness. He was completely shielded. But destiny runs the show. He happened to go on a tour outside the city and he chanced upon sickness. He chanced upon old age. He chanced upon death. Instantly, he went into a state of dispassion. Dispassion arose in him. He said, what is the use of all this prosperity, of this youth, of this beauty, of this happiness, when all this is just temporary? It does not last forever. I am also going to die. I am also going to face old age. This hit him hard and his search began. When Buddha started seeing this reality as it is, he said that there has to be a cause for this sorrow, and I will figure out how to end this sorrow. So let's see Buddha's journey. The search for enlightenment. Bhikkhus, before my enlightenment, while I was still only an unenlightened bodhisattva, I too, being myself subject to birth, sought what was also subject to birth. Being myself subject to aging, sickness, death, sorrow, and defilement, I sought what was also subject to aging, sickness, death, sorrow, and defilement. Then I considered thus, why, being myself subject to birth, do I seek what is also subject to birth? This is contemplation number 1 for you. Why, being myself subject to birth, do I seek what is also subject to birth? Contemplation number 2. Why, being myself subject to aging, sickness, death, sorrow, and defilement, do I seek what is also subject to aging, sickness, death, sorrow, and defilement? Suppose that, being myself subject to birth, having understood the danger in what is subject to birth, I seek the unborn, supreme security from bondage, Nibbana. Suppose that, being myself subject to aging, sickness, death, sorrow, and defilement, having understood the danger in what is subject to aging, sickness, death, sorrow, and defilement, I seek the unaging, unailing, deathless, sorrowless, and undefiled supreme security from bondage, Nibbana. He questioned his search. He already had money. He was looking for more money. He already had women. He was looking for more enjoyment with women. He already had power. He was looking for more power. And then he questioned himself that I am subject to birth, aging, sickness, sorrow, death, defilement, and all this that I am seeking, women, prosperity, power, all this is also subject to death, to defilement, to sorrow, to aging. So, what is the point? It comes and it goes. Why don't I recognize the danger in all this and instead look for that which is beyond birth, which is beyond sorrow, which is beyond sickness, that which is beyond defilements, that which is beyond death even. Later, while still young, a black-haired young man endowed with the blessing of youth in the prime of life, though my mother and father wished otherwise, and wept with tearful faces, I shaved off my hair and beard, put on the yellow robe, and went forth from the home life into homelessness. Having gone forth, bhikkhus, in search of what is wholesome, seeking the supreme state of sublime peace, I went to Alara Kalama and said to him, Friend Kalama, I want to lead the holy life in this Dhamma and discipline. Alara Kalama replied, The Venerable One may stay here, This Dhamma is such that a wise man can soon enter upon and abide in it, realizing for himself through direct knowledge his own teacher's doctrine. I soon quickly learned that Dhamma. As far as mere lip reciting and rehearsal of his teaching went, I could speak with knowledge and assurance, and I claimed, I know and see. And there were others who did likewise. I considered it is not through mere faith alone that Alara Kalama declares. By realizing for myself with direct knowledge, I enter upon and abide in this Dhamma. Certainly, Alara Kalama abides knowing and seeing this Dhamma. Then I went to Alara Kalama and asked him, Friend Kalama, in what way do you declare that by realizing for yourself with direct knowledge, you enter upon and abide in this Dhamma? In reply, he declared the base of nothingness. So, Alara Kalama would always be established in the base of nothingness. What is the base of nothingness? It is one of the jhanas, one of the levels of samadhi, or the level that you will understand and experience when we do the long 10-day retreat together. So, the base of nothingness is the seventh jhana. Alara Kalama said that I abide in that base of nothingness, or the seventh jhana. I considered not only Alara Kalama has faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. I too have faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. Suppose I endeavor to realize the Dhamma that Alara Kalama declares, he enters upon and abides in by realizing for himself with direct knowledge. So he got inspired by Alara Kalama. I soon quickly entered upon and abided in that Dhamma by realizing for myself with direct knowledge. Then I went to Alara Kalama and asked him, Friend Kalama, is it in this way that you declare that you enter upon and abide in this Dhamma by realizing for yourself with direct knowledge? That is the way, friend. It is in this way, friend, that I also enter upon and abide in this Dhamma by realizing for myself with direct knowledge. It is a gain for us, friend. It is a great gain for us that we have such a venerable one for our companion in the holy life. So the Dhamma that I declare, I enter upon and abide in by realizing for myself with direct knowledge is the Dhamma that you enter upon and abide in by realizing for yourself with direct knowledge. And the Dhamma that you enter upon and abide in by realizing for yourself with direct knowledge is the Dhamma that I declare, I enter upon and abide in by realizing for myself with direct knowledge. So you know the Dhamma that I know, and I know the Dhamma that you know. As I am, so are you. As you are, so am I. Come, friend, let us now lead this community together. So basically, Alara Kalama recognizes that Siddhartha Gautama also had reached the same level of seventh jhana, the base of nothingness. He could abide there. He came and confirmed it with Alara Kalama. Alara Kalama says, yes, it is the same Dhamma that you abide in and realize for yourself. It is the same Dhamma that I abide in and realize for myself by direct knowledge. So you know what I know, and I know what you know. So here he is proposing that Siddhartha Gautama is now ready to lead the community. Means what? To be a teacher. Let's see what Siddhartha Gautama now says. Thus Alara Kalama, my teacher, placed me, his pupil, on an equal footing with myself and awarded me the highest honor. But it occurred to me, this Dhamma does not lead to disenchantment, to dispassion, to cessation, to peace, to direct knowledge, to enlightenment, to nibbana, but only to reappearance in the base of nothingness. Not being satisfied with that Dhamma, disappointed with it, I left. What is the meaning of disenchantment? We are so enchanted by the Maya of people, of situations and things. We are enchanted by our family, we are enchanted by the money, we are enchanted by the job, the name, the fame associated with that job. We are just enchanted by everything. Disenchantment did not happen by establishing in the base of nothingness. So he thought there has to be something more. Dispassion has not yet arisen in me. Means something is still lacking. This cannot be Nibbana because there are still cravings and aversions. There's still ragas and dveshas. My mind is still clouded by ragas and dveshas. So this is great, but it is not complete. So he left. Still in search, bhikkhus, of what is wholesome, seeking the supreme state of sublime peace, I went to Udaka Ramaputta and said to him, friend, I want to lead the holy life in this Dhamma and discipline. Udaka Ramaputta replied, the Venerable One may stay here. This Dhamma is such that a wise man can soon enter upon and abide in it, himself realizing through direct knowledge his own teacher's doctrine. I soon quickly learned that Dhamma. As far as mere lip reciting and rehearsal of his teaching went, I could speak with knowledge and assurance. And I claimed I know and see. And there were others who did likewise. So again, he goes to Udaka and he says that he wants to learn the Dhamma with Udaka. When Udaka welcomes him, Siddhartha Gautama starts learning with him. And he's very good at the Dhamma. All this spiritual talks, he himself is, very learned and has reached a stage where he can recite the knowledge very well. So lip reciting, he calls it. He's very clear. He does not call it Swabhava Jnana or self-knowledge, he calls it lip reciting. He was good at it. He was good at all the chanting, all the mantras. He was good at all the shlokas. He understood the meaning and he could speak knowledge just like his teacher. And there were many others, he says, that could do likewise. I considered it was not through mere faith alone that Rama declared, by realizing for myself with direct knowledge, I enter upon and abide in this Dhamma. Certainly, Rama abided knowing and seeing this Dhamma. There's a difference between just faith and knowing and seeing. Faith is mostly based on a pleasant feeling that you get by following somebody else's teaching or instruction. You may or may not know and see it for yourself, but you are just following blindly, I would say. That is faith. I will know one day. I don't know now. This is faith. There's a pleasant sensation because there's somebody else you're looking up to. But Buddha could see clearly that Udaka is not coming from that space of mere faith, that he could not have reached there merely by faith. Where Udaka is coming from is purely by knowing it and seeing it for himself by direct experience. Gautama was very sharp. He recognized this. So he went to Udaka. Then I went to Udaka Ramaputta and asked him, Friend, in what way did Rama declare that by realizing for himself with direct knowledge he entered upon and abided in this Dhamma? In reply, Udaka Ramaputta declared, the base of neither perception nor non-perception. This is jhana number 8. Again, when you learn the jhanas with me on a long retreat, I will take you through them. For now, let's understand that when you go beyond nothingness, the mind becomes so still that there is no more perceiving, no more labeling, no more judging what is happening. You're not even putting the label of this is nothingness. Do you see what I'm saying? Even that label of nothingness drops away. But at the same time, it's not that you are unaware or sleeping. You are still aware. Yet, the perception absolutely ceases. And yet, it does not cease. This can only be experienced. It is called the base of neither perception nor non-perception. Jhana number 8. I considered not only Rama had faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. I too have faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. Suppose I endeavor to realize the Dhamma that Rama declared he entered upon and abided in by realizing for himself with direct knowledge. So he is now inspired even by Udaka, and he himself sits down to go beyond the base of nothingness into the base of neither perception nor non-perception. I soon quickly entered upon and abided in that Dhamma by realizing for myself with direct knowledge. Then I went to Udaka Ramaputta and asked him, "Friend, was it in this way that Rama declared that he entered upon and abided in this Dhamma by realizing for himself with direct knowledge?" He goes to Udaka after the sitting and tells him, "This is what happened, this is what I experienced in the base of neither perception nor non perception." Udaka responds, "That is the way, friend. It is in this way, friend, that I also enter upon and abide in this Dhamma by realizing for myself with direct knowledge. It is a gain for us, friend. It is a great gain for us that we have such a venerable one for our companion in the holy life." So, the Dhamma that Rama declared he entered upon and abided in by realizing for himself with direct knowledge is the Dhamma that you enter upon and abide in by realizing for yourself with direct knowledge. And the Dhamma that you enter upon and abide in by realizing for yourself with direct knowledge is the Dhamma that Rama declared he entered upon and abided in by realizing for himself with direct knowledge. So, you know the Dhamma that Rama knew, and Rama knew the Dhamma that you know. As Rama was, so are you. As you are, so was Rama. Come, friend, now lead this community. Same thing happened here because Buddha's awareness was so sharp. He was the best disciple. A master had to just explain in a few words, even without long instructions. Buddha could understand the few words, implement it, and experience the state the master was talking about. That's how Buddha went into the eighth jhana, experienced it, and explained it to Udaka. Udaka said, "Now you have realized what I realized. You know what I know what you know. Now let us both lead this community." He's inviting him to become a teacher and start teaching. Thus Udaka Ramaputta, my companion in the holy life, placed me in the position of a teacher and accorded me the highest honor. But it occurred to me, this Dhamma does not lead to disenchantment, to dispassion, to cessation, to peace, to direct knowledge, to enlightenment, to Nibbana, but only to reappearance in the base of neither perception nor non-perception. Not being satisfied with that Dhamma, disappointed with it, I left. So Buddha did not get lured again that, "Oh great, I am a teacher, I can be a teacher." He was like, "No, this is still not the end. There is some escape beyond. There is something beyond this." He recognized that his ragas and dveshas had not vanished. There has to be something more. There has to be something more. Something is missing. And that propelled him to leave. Still in search, bhikkhus, of what is wholesome, seeking the supreme state of sublime peace, I wandered by stages through the Magadhan country until eventually I arrived at Uruvela at Senanigama. There I saw an agreeable piece of ground, a delightful grove with a clear flowing river, with pleasant smooth banks, and nearby a village for alms resort. I considered this is an agreeable piece of ground. This is delightful grove with clear flowing river, with pleasant smooth banks, and nearby a village for alms resort. This will serve for the striving of a clansman intent on striving. And I sat down there thinking, this will serve for striving. Striving here means working hard to figure out the path that will lead you out of craving. That path which will help you become disenchanted. That path which will help you become dispassionate and just rest in that peaceful core of your being. You are all looking for that rest. You just think that you'll get it from a holiday. You go on a holiday, you become more stressed. It is just a marathon. You are running from one point to the other so that you don't miss anything. It's another craving, another form of craving, not a relaxation. The same thing you do. You go to a silent retreat, but you still have some or the other craving in the mind. You're not really relaxing. You're not really meditating. It is another meditation marathon now. From this meditation to that meditation, there is no withdrawing. There is just craving for more and more and more. Real striving means striving to drop craving and just being. So Buddha found the perfect ground where he could go deeper into his sadhana. Enlightenment. Then bhikkhus, being myself subject to birth, having understood the danger in what is subject to birth, seeking the unborn supreme security from bondage or nibbana, I attain the unborn supreme security from bondage, nibbana. Being myself subject to aging, having understood the danger in what is subject to aging, seeking the unaging supreme security from bondage, nibbana. I attained the unaging supreme security from bondage, nibbana. Being myself subject to sickness, having understood the danger in what is subject to sickness, seeking the unailing supreme security from bondage, nibbana, I attain the unailing supreme security from bondage, nibbana. Being myself subject to death, having understood the danger in what is subject to death, seeking the deathless supreme security from bondage, nibbana, I attain the deathless supreme security from bondage, nibbana. Being myself subject to sorrow, having understood the danger in what is subject to sorrow, seeking the sorrowless supreme security from bondage, nibbana, I attain the sorrowless supreme security from bondage, nibbana. Being myself subject to defilement, having understood the danger in what is subject to defilement, seeking the undefiled supreme security from bondage, nibbana, I attain the undefiled supreme security from bondage, nibbana. The knowledge and vision arose in me. My deliverance is unshakable. This is my last birth. Now there is no renewal of being. This is how he attained enlightenment. He recognized that despite this body being subject to birth, aging, sickness, sorrow, death, defilement, can attain a supreme state that is beyond birth, sorrow, sickness, old age, defilement, death. He attained Nibbana. And he recognized this is the last deliverance, means this is the last step, there is nothing beyond this. And this is his last birth. He will no more come back into the cycle of birth and death. Coming back into the cycle of birth and death happens because of karma. But all your karma gets completely wiped out once you attain Nibbana. He also said a very important thing in the last sentence. He said there is no renewal of being, means the flow of karma is what he calls becoming, bhava. This bhava will not come back into body. He did not call it rebirth, he did not call it reincarnation. He called it no renewal of being, that there is no coming back into the cycle of birth and death.